So Joe Biden, or as we call him, Handsy Uncle Joseph, responded to some of the inappropriate touching allegations against him. Now, since he released this video on Twitter, there's been 3 more allegations. The night before that, there were 2. The original one was Lucy Flores. So, kind of like the dam broke on this one. But let's see what he has to say about it, and then we'll discuss.
Month, I expect to be talking to you about a whole lot of issues, and I'll always be direct with you. But today I want to talk about gestures of support and encouragement that I've made to women and some men, and have made them uncomfortable. And I always tried to be, in my career, I've always tried to make a human connection. That's my responsibility, I think. I shake hands, I hug people, I grab men and women by the shoulders and say, you can do this. And whether they're women, men, young, old, it's the way I've always been. It's the way I've tried to show I care about them and I'm listening. And over the years, knowing what I've been through, the things that I've faced, I've found that scores, if not hundreds of people have come up to me and reached out for solace and comfort, something, anything that may help them get through the tragedy they're going through. And so it's just who I am. And I've never thought of politics as cold and antiseptic. I've always thought it about connecting with people. As I said, shaking hands, hands on the shoulder, a hug, encouragement. And now it's all about taking selfies together. Social norms have begun to change. They've shifted. And the boundaries of protecting personal space have been reset. And I get it. I hear what they're saying. I understand it. And I'll be much more mindful. That's my responsibility, and I'll meet it. But I'll always believe governing, quite frankly, life for that matter, is about connecting with people. That won't change, but I will be more mindful and respectful of people's personal space. And that's a good thing. I've worked my whole life to empower women. I've worked my whole life to prevent abuse. I've written, and so the idea that I can adjust to the fact that personal space is important, more important than it's ever been, is just not thinkable. I will.
Now, at first, here were my thoughts on this. Uncle Joe is just Uncle Joe, and he is like Handsy, but there's nothing nefarious about it. There's no malintent. There's no sexual intent there. He's just being Uncle Joe. And it wasn't that long ago where I actually would have totally bought his explanation of like, yeah, that's me. I'm like a loving guy, and that's how I communicate with people. But I've seen so much more since this scandal broke. There seems to be like just a mountain of video evidence of him not just being Uncle Joe and being somewhat touchy, but loving. There's also just videos that are beyond the pale by any reasonable standards. So what I mean by that is, it's not just like, oh, he puts his hands on people's shoulders and he says, you can do this. One of the things he's done repeatedly is he's kissed people on the forehead and on the head, and it's 100% clear that they don't want that, and he, for whatever reason, is obstinate and doesn't care and goes for it anyway, even though I sense that he knows that they don't want it. He does it. Another thing he does is he sniffs their hair, and that's another thing that's like, what are you doing? He'll stroke their hair. That's another thing that I'm like, what are you doing? And the one that really put me over the top is there's this video of him with a very young Asian girl. I want to say maybe 10 years old. And he basically does everything in the book, and it's beyond creepy. He, rubs her shoulders, caresses her hair, kisses her forehead, and then he rests his hand like right by her breast and leaves it there awkwardly. And I went from thinking, like, no, this is just Uncle Joe, to like, no, he really is a handsy creeper, and I think he actually knows what he's doing. Like, I think in his mind, he's going like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And it's not cool. And then with all these women coming out now, basically the sense you get is the core point is it's not that there's no malintent, it's that he's actually a creeper. And that seems to be what all these other women are indicating. And it's not, like, I don't think it's analogous to people who might just be affectionate people but aren't crossing a line. Like, I think if there's a situation where, you're taking a picture and you're a politician and you put your arms around people and it happens to be on their hip or something, that I don't think that's necessarily bad. I don't think it's bad to even do the two hands on the shoulders type thing. That's not, if somebody came out and said, oh, this is what somebody did to me, and then they describe just the two hands on the shoulders, I'd be like, come on, that's not what you're saying it is. That's not what you're implying it is. But in the case of Handsy Uncle Joseph, it's really not just that. And the more I see of it, the more I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? And yeah, it's, but here's the thing, man, because then the next logical question is people are saying, does this disqualify him from running? And on that point, I have to say, no, I don't agree with the people who say this disqualifies him. But I also just flat out don't support him. And I also think that even if we weren't in the midst of a Handsy Uncle Joseph Me Too scandal here, he wouldn't win either way. Like, I think that it's a mirage, it's a facade, it's fake. The fact that he's leading in so many polls is because they oversample old people. And the idea of a Joe Biden presidency is a lot more appealing to people than the reality. And once he hits that campaign trail and starts talking, he's going to tank in the polls. Why do I say that? That's what's happened every other time he ran for president. He starts talking and he tanks in the polls. So I think even if this scandal didn't hit, he would not really be a non-factor in a race for president. And now with the scandal hitting, that just furthers the reality that he's going to be a non-factor. But the funny thing is he totally brought this upon himself too, because he could have just he could have just said, all right, you know what? I'm done with my political career. I was the vice president. I was a senator forever. So got it. I've had my run here. But no, his ego drew him back and he wants to be president. And as a result of that, now the dam has broken and all these weird accusations are coming in. And then the other point that somebody made that I thought was a really good point is, if this is what he was doing, like, on camera very publicly, the super over-the-top creepy handsiness, then what do you think he was doing behind closed doors? So anyway, there's his, and the other point people made was, oh, this was a non-apology. He didn't apologize. And they were outraged as a result of that. But my response to that is, well, even if he did apologize, it's not like everybody who's going after him now would accept his apology and move on. So it's a little bit of a weird point, in my opinion, and a little bit of like a red herring response, where it's like, oh, I can't believe he didn't apologize. Yeah, but if he did apologize, your reaction would probably be, too bad, I don't really care that you're apologizing. So I don't think that's a great point, but I think that either way he still wants to run, either way he's probably going to run, and with or without this scandal, he wouldn't be a factor anyway. So I don't know. We'll see how it all unfolds, but yeah, Handsy Uncle Joseph is even more handsy and creepy than I originally thought. I probably would have largely defended him without seeing all this like new video evidence of how bad it really is. Because I think that the other thing that pushed me over the top is it's so obvious that the people he's being handsy with don't want it, and he's not receptive to the signals they're sending out. And I think that's on purpose. I don't think he's a dumb guy. I think he gets the signals and he doesn't care, which is bad. So anyway, Handsy Uncle Joseph. I can't wait to show you in a later segment. We don't have it for this one. But obviously, Handsy Uncle Joseph is our nickname for Joe Biden. And we have the absolute best pictures for that. I mean, I think all of our nicknames are top-notch. Amy Cloudboot-Jar, Howard Schitz, Bet on My Stork, so on and so forth. But Handsy Uncle Joseph might have the best pictures. And thanks to all you guys for sending them in, because they're awesome. It's Joe Biden with, like, abnormally giant hands. And it goes perfectly with his name, Handsy Uncle Joseph.